Chris Eubank Jr. versus Spike O'Sullivan. Now, the first thing I have to mention about this fight is the size difference, because I was actually quite surprised and alarmed by how big the size difference was between these two at the first press conference a few weeks back, because I expected them to be similar in size. Now, I've seen Chris Eubank Jr. in real life. I saw him at Notting Hill Carnival about 4 years ago, I think now. Yeah, about 4 years ago. And he's a pretty big guy for a middleweight. He's not that big though, but he is pretty big. I'd say in terms of height, he's probably around 5'11", 6 foot, somewhere around there. I expected Spike O'Sullivan to maybe be an inch or two shorter, but seeing him face to face, the size difference looks absolutely enormous. Now, Billy Joe Saunders was a guy who was also significantly smaller than Chris Eubank Jr., but Billy Joe Saunders has those silky boxing skills. He was a much better amateur than Eubank Jr., for example. So his extra boxing skills and technical ability was able to offset the size and maybe strength disadvantage that he was going up against in the Eubank Jr. fight. Spike O'Sullivan don't have those type of skills or technical abilities. He's a basic, rudimentary fighter who comes forward and relies on pressure and power. And that is going to play into the hands of Chris Eubank Jr. stylistically. The only problem here I see for Eubank Jr., if Sullivan tucks up nice and tight, then maybe he can give Eubank Jr. problems with pressure. But the only real danger I see here for Eubank Jr. is the punching power of a Spike O'Sullivan. And he appears to me, again, neither him or Eubank Jr. have fought particularly great opposition other than Billy Joe Saunders, who's about to fight for a world title. Other than that, neither of them have fought anyone particularly good. But it appears to me as though Spike O'Sullivan's the naturally more heavy-handed of the two. Eubank Jr.'s punching power has been improving. I have to say that. But I just don't think he's naturally heavy-handed. I think he's a guy who's had to learn how to plant his feet and throw heavy shots. I don't think it's something that came to him easily. So I think he's going to have to worry about Spike O'Sullivan's power, particularly early on. But everything else is in Eubank Jr.'s favor. The size, the speed, hand speed, foot speed, combination punching ability, jab, reach, movement, everything is in his favor. It just comes down to how well Spike can cover up and hope to land big bombs, because I can't see him winning this fight on skills. I think he can stick around and be a nuisance and maybe be dangerous, but unless Eubank Jr. gets really careless and sloppy, I think he's going to win the fight. When the fight was initially announced, I felt that it would be a lot more competitive than I do now. And that was because, as I say, I didn't realize how much bigger Eubank Jr. really is. So at long range, you'd have to imagine if Eubank Jr. gets hurt, let's say, if he decides to revert to a long range game, he should be able to do that quite successfully, because his arms are going to be longer than Spike O'Sullivan's. His feet are faster. His hands are faster. If he wants to stay on the back foot and keep it safe, he should be able to win that fight, the fight that way as well. So, yeah, I'm definitely going for a Chris Eubank Jr. victory. I'm not necessarily going for a knockout. Again, I'm not wholly convinced that Eubank Jr. is an especially concussive puncher. He can definitely punch when he sits down on his shots, but I don't really think he's that much of a natural. And maybe Spike O'Sullivan will be able to keep him uncomfortable enough to keep him on the move to the point where he's not really able to punch with the kind of authority that would be able to take Spike O'Sullivan out. So, I don't know. I'm going to go with Chris Eubank Jr. winning the fight on points. If it is a stoppage, maybe a late stoppage. A lot of people are saying Eubank Jr. is just going to blast through him. He might do. And one thing about Eubank Jr. is that I personally believe, and I made no secret of the fact, that I believe that he froze in the Billy Joe Saunders fight and massively underperformed. I don't think that was a true representation of what Chris Eubank Jr. can do. And if he does fight Billy Joe Saunders in the future, I think you are going to see a totally different performance from Eubank Jr. You're not just going to see wild, sloppy right hands coming from him. You're going to see far more skills and a far greater variety of punches coming from Eubank Jr. if he rematches Billy Joe. Against Chudinov, I think you saw an improvement. He was letting his hands go better. Combination punching, still a bit sloppy, but he looked better in the Chudinov fight than he did against Billy Joe. And I'm expecting the same thing here against Spike O'Sullivan. Yes, the style of a Spike O'Sullivan and Chudinov complement him far more than the style of a Billy Joe Saunders, a slick southpaw, definitely. But be that as it may, I do honestly believe that it's not just the case of the style of Billy Joe Saunders that gave Eubank Jr. a problem. It's also the fact that he froze and he wasn't quite ready psychologically for that occasion. And I think now that he's had a couple of high-profile fights here against Gary Sullivan on another big stage, in a big event, I think we're going to see even more of what Eubank Jr. has to offer. We're going to see him more comfortable, more confident, and he's going to be able to fight far more to his full potential as it is at the moment, or his full ability as it is at the moment. So yeah, I'm taking Chris Eubank Jr. to win the fight. And as I say, because he keeps on improving, because he's more comfortable now, maybe he will be able to blast through Spike. Okay? The Eubank Jr. that fought Billy Joe Saunders, I'm telling you right now, there's no way that guy blasts through Spike O'Sullivan. No way. But the Eubank Jr. now, with more confidence, happier on the big stage, more comfortable, maybe he will. But I'm still going to take him to win the fight on points or late stoppage. Let me know how you feel about this fight. How do you see it going? What's your prediction? Drop them in the comment section below. It's your boy Hatman, I'm out.